Okay, I feel like we have to sing a niggun. Can't just go into learning. We got to sing a good niggun. Die 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 da 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 ay 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 da 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 ma 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 da 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 ay da 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 ma ya 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 da da ma ya ma 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 ay ya ma ya ya ma ay ya da 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 ay 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 did I ay 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 ma ay ma ya 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 ay la ma ya 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 ay 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 da 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 oh yeah ah yeah 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 oh yeah ma 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 ah yeah ma ya ya ma ah ya 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 da 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 ah ya ya ma ah ma 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 da 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 ma 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 doi 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 doi. So we have to start the morning with at least some good news, right? Because there's so much heavy news. It's hard to swallow, hard to wake up to a morning where, 7 chayalim are killed and 4 more Yidden were killed yesterday morning. So it's important that when good things happen, that you have to mention them even more so. So the good news is that Baruch Hashem, it seems that New York Aliyah is going to be faster than ever now. You would hope that at least Aliyah from like a place where so many Yidden live and are, Bezrat Hashem, and we're kimechakim anachnu lachem, we're waiting for all of them. So at least that should be good news, Bezrat Hashem, today. Okay, so today we're going to be learning a short piece from Rav Shlomo on Parshat Korach. Parshat Korach, there's a lot of very, very long and intense teachings in Parshat Korach in Rav Shlomo that have to do with a birur of truth versus truth of truth. Emes versus emes lahamita. There are a lot of things that are true, but they're not the truth of truths. They're not the truth of truths, and that's the birur. That's a very to differentiate between sheker and emet is not such a. It's all relevant, but in the world that we're in, that's already like it's an interesting inyan, but truth versus truth of truths, that's already a very big bechina. That's already a very high level to be able to differentiate between the two. I'm always reminded of the story of the Yismach Moshe, who always said that he remembers that he was around during the rebellion with Korach and the Eiger, and he says in the previous Gilgul, he remembers that he was there, and he told his Hasidim that you guys don't understand. it was so confusing, it was so not clear what the emes of the emes was till the last second, that the Korach's rebellion was so convincing because it sounded so holy. It wasn't the Holy of Holies, but it sounded so holy, it sounded so convincing that he himself said, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure till the last second whose side I was going to be on. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, or Korach and the Nesiah Eiger, Anshe Shem, Bnei Ruvain. It was so confusing. Like, we read Parshat Korach and we're like, oh my God, these people were so off. And it's not like that at all. It's a lost sipur. That's not the story that's going on over here. And the Torah and the Chassidus, what they're trying to extract from this story is, how do we know that we're not just connected to the truth, but that we're connected to the truth of truths? And a much more important inyan, the truth of truths. How do we know? And that's what we want so badly, to be connected to the emes la'amita. So you see this one page, if you have the Sefer, it's page 218 in Rav Shlomo. Vayerach vod Hashem el kol ha'eda. There's a lot of teachings in this parsha from Leibele Eiger that are in this Sefer, because Leibele Eiger it seemed that what he was receiving from the Kotzker and from the Meir Shiloach was a very clear avoda pnimis that he had to do between truth and truth of all truth, because that was his own personal story as well. He came from the world of such truth, growing up in the house of his father, Rav Shlomo Eiger, his grandfather being the great tzaddik and gaon Rabbi Akiva Eiger. That would have been enough to say, I live a life of truth, but if your heart's irking inside and you can't ignore it, and then it led him to Kotzk, and he had to do what he had to do. So he's a person that we know had to go through this birur for himself, not to, God forbid, equate the home he came from with Korach, you understand? Chas v'shalom. It's not the point of what I'm saying right now. But there's truth versus truth and all truth. Yes?
It was confusing for the Amfer during the Korach situation. Do we know, did Korach have good intent? Was he operating with Shema, or was he...
It's $1 million question. So if we didn't have the first word of the parsha, we wouldn't know the answer. But the first word of the parsha indicates to us that even if there was some kind of a good intention, it was operating immediately from the beginning in the wrong place. Vayikach. And there's a whole sikha from the Rebbe, I encourage you to see it inside, that the Babich Rebbe asks the Shaila, how in the world could it be that we have a parsha named after someone like Korach? And if anything, if there's an inyan to name a parsha after like one of the first words, right, then maybe you should have called it Vayikach. It should have been called Parshas Vayikach, right? Why Korach? So Korach on its own, it resembles a she'ifa legadlus. It does. He has an aspiration for greatness. But because the word Vayikach comes before it, it shows us that you can have the greatest aspirations for greatness, but if you don't know what to do with it, it can take you to places you really don't want to be in. So, didn't answer your question so much. Aval ayin sham od basicha shel Rebbe. Okay, let's go inside. It's a short piece, a beautiful piece. Leibele Eiger omer, שהסימן הכי מובהק לאיש אמס הוא היכולת שלו להודות בטעות. Oof, wow, dagger. He says over here, what's the greatest sign of a person of truth? Not that he carries the truth, not that he spreads the truth, but rather the greatest siman of someone who's emes is dafka, the one who's willing to admit when he did a mistake. That's a siman of a person that's emes. We would think siman of emes, a guy that never fails, a guy that's always the truth is with him, but it's not that. It's dafka, the person that's willing to admit that he made a mistake, is the greatest siman, according to Leibele Eiger, of a person who's a person of truth, a person of real truth. העניין הוא לא רק להיות מסוגל לקבל את האמס, האמס מצוי היכן שאתה יכול להודות שטעית. The whole Indian is not only to be able to mekabel truth, that I'm a person that receives truth, but rather the truth is to admit, the ability to admit where where you did it wrong, where you got something wrong. Let's think about this in our own lives for a second. Great people that you have in your life, great Rabbanim that you know, great leaders, great tzaddikim that you know in your life, are they great to you because they were always right? Or did you ever see moments by them where they were willing to be moda ala emes? That they were able to say, I got this one off, this one was off. So it's a great testament to where we're holding. If we're looking for people that are always right, it maybe there's something in us also that needs a birur. If we're willing to be if we're looking for great people that are also people that at times have said, I thought this was right, but I learned it better, it's not right. And what I said isn't exactly true. That's a person that you really want to be with, that you really want to stick with. So each person has to ask themselves, who are my leaders? Who are the people, not just who are my leaders, who are the people that I'm looking for? What am I looking for? What kind of qualities am I looking for in a person like this? Okay, weiter. Ein lanu baya lekabel et haemet. Receiving truth, like learning truth, we have no problem with that. Habaya shelanu hi leodot shenahagnu shelo kashura. What we have trouble with is admitting that we didn't act appropriately, we didn't behave appropriately. That's where we normally struggle with more. So now we go into the depth of Korach. I think, Zevi, this really may answer your shaila. לאחר שראה קורח שרק הקטורת של אהרון התקבלה, היה צריך לומר, okay, זה סימן משמיים שאני לא האיש, right? Korach had the perfect opportunity in our parsha to be modeh ala emes. When? When he saw in front of him that it wasn't working. It wasn't from Shamayim. They showed him in front of him that it wasn't working his way. That it was only Aaron's incense that was received. At that moment, he could have said, you know, but this is what happens to us. Sometimes we're shown clear emes about something, but because it kind of challenges everything I built up beforehand, we're not able to then admit. Huh? Yeah, Gaiva is a general, broad concept, but it's a building. It's a whole building of things that I've already, because I think that it's like a Jenga. Remember Jenga? I don't know if they still have Jenga. Yeah? Yeah. So it's basically, it's not taking a piece up the top and then three top rows. Aaron's, the Ksort, it's the bottom, it's right there in the middle. And it's going to crumble the whole binyan that you did. You know? You got to start all over again. So it makes it pretty. What Rav Shlomo is saying is that Korach had the most perfect opportunity. That if that moment, I think he's not saying this, but I'm thinking like this. If at that moment that Korach would have said, "Oh man, what I wanted was really holy, but the way I went about it was really wrong." After what happened with Aaron, then maybe at that moment everything could have changed for him, and maybe he could have even become the Levi Gadol like he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And he was given that moment, right? But Dafka then, he doesn't. It gets even more difficult. So we see like there's always opportunities to be modeh ala emes over and over and over again. There are always opportunities, and that's what he should have said. Aval, Rav Shlomo says, lo hakoach lomar zot. He didn't have the strength to say it because. Do you know how much strength you need in order to be modeh ala emes? You need so much koach to be. It's one of the things that demand of us the greatest powers in the world. To dafka look at things that we said this should be, this needs to be, and I give you all the holy reasons why it needs to be, and then you're shown that it doesn't really need to be because it's wrong. You know how much strength you need to be misgaber on that? It's not a simple thing to be able to say I was wrong, and that everything I built up was wrong. It takes a lot of koach. He did not have the koach.
We get to practice this in our marriages.
What's that?
We get to practice this every day in our marriages, no?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Ulai hu haya maspik kadosh liet kohen gadol. Wow, this is amazing. Maybe he was holy enough to be the kohen gadol. Aval hu lo haya maspik kadosh kedei leodot shu lo nivchar. But he wasn't holy enough to admit that he wasn't chosen. Aaron HaKohen, lo hayta baya leodot. Aaron HaKohen had no problem admitting if things went wrong, if he did something wrong. Im Hashem omer sheze lo ani, az ze lo ani. See, Aaron HaKohen listened to what Hashem said. Moshe and Aaron listened to what Hashem said, and they placed that whole test in our parsha with the machtot, right, with the makel, and then there was a few of these things that happened. Aaron HaKohen walked into that scenario saying, if Hashem is going to say that it's Korach, I am just as much with Hashem than I am right now, than the kahuna being by me. That's how Aaron HaKohen walked into it.
Also Moshe with the menorah.
And Moshe with the menorah, admitting, and the shekel, Benot Slovchad, Pesach Sheni, meaning there were all these things, but there it's more an Indian of, I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm not sure what the right psak is, right? Here it's like a personal, it's like a personal attack, because what Aaron HaKohen is going into saying, I may go into something that'll clarify, and I may lose my gig. I may lose my whole gig. I may lose, this thing. However, if that's what Hashem wants, then it wasn't mine in the first place. That's how Aaron HaKohen goes into something.
Maybe it's more like Yitro coming to Moshe and saying, you can't do this alone. And Moshe being able to...
יכול להיות, 100%. That could seem like it, nachon. But Aaron HaKohen goes into it and okay, I was about to share. Everyone in their own life has these tests. Okay, that the shaila comes up in life and saying, if Hashem showed you right now that you're not the one for the gig that you thought you were set out to be, but that's Hashem's ratzon, would you be okay with it or not? You need a lot of strength to even go into that test, because that's what it means, not just to receive the truth, but willing to be admitting and saying, I really thought this was the right thing, and now it's become clear to me that it's not. That takes a lot of strength.
I think Moshe even went in this way also, saying, hey, look, Hashem, it could be Korach's way. Let's bring the Torah, let's see what works. He's such a good guy. He bought into Korach's argument, and when he realized, wait a second, you guys are a little bit off, he goes to Hashem to say, well, wait a second, look, tomorrow they're going to go ahead and bring the Torah. Don't wipe him out like Nadav and Abihu. Don't just go ahead and it's not a real deal. Like I'm giving you the heads up, Hashem. He's almost like trying to still protect Korach. Originally, he's like, maybe.
Very good. Moshe Rabbeinu is going in with Moshe and Aaron. Moshe and Aaron b'chohanav. They're both going in like that. They are. This is the stuff the Torah doesn't write, right? But this is what the Torah is begging us, crying out to extract from it, understand. Moshe and Aaron were willing to be stripped from any level of Gdula that they were it's weird, I don't want to say attained, because they were appointed, right? So, but they're even that, maybe they said to themselves, maybe we misread, or maybe Hashem says, now's the time for somebody else.
Like Shaul and David.
100%. 100%. Better.
Aaron and Moshe. When Moshe took Aaron's gig.
When Moshe took Aaron's gig. Yeah. Like there is an openness to be like, the truth of truth. The truth was, it needs to be like this because this is what it was until now, and Hashem said so. The truth of truths is that Hashem wants something else right now, and I have to be open for that. But Hashem looks at a yid like that and says, that's exactly why you have the gig. Because if I would have taken it away from you right now, you would have been shalim. But that's the whole point. That's the whole Indian. That's the whole point. This is how we learned Korach growing up, no? No? Yeah, sure.
When you, a couple minutes ago, you said, would you be okay with it, right? The focus of, it didn't go, not maybe towards plan or what you saw.
Yeah.
You said, would you be okay, you know what I'm talking about? You just literally...
Decodify.
Yeah.
Let's go. Again.
Things not going to plan with the way that you saw it out. This is what it needed to be. You said, would you be okay with it? On a level.
You're talking about what we said right after Shachris?
No, yes, right after chakras.
Okay.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how can I put that into this situation? I'm not connecting.
How could, okay, so right after, just to repeat for those that were in here, right after Shachris we said that the word that describes the beginning of our real Yetzias Mitzrayim is the word Vayehi, which we know is Lashon Tsar, Vayehi b'shalach paro esam. And everyone's wondering, why do they use a word that describes something painful when illustrating us leaving Mitzrayim? So Rav Shlomo said, I think it could have been in the name of the Biala Rebbe, I have to look back inside. He said that En Vayehi Lashon Tsar was so painful because we think we have this imagery of Yidden leaving Mitzrayim completely b'shleimus. I just want to say, do you know how much I missed that soundtrack, Jerry, for the shiurim? You have no idea. You have no idea. No idea. Sorry, but not sorry. Vayihi meant that Yidden had an image of what they were going to feel like and what it was going to look like when Iran is taken out and when Israel does the impossible. Right? When Egypt will take us out, when we would, right? But it didn't feel exactly in accordance to the way that they thought it was going to be. So therefore, that's a painful thing because it didn't meet our expectations of how it was going to be. Rav Shlomo also says that's also Shana Rishona. Maybe after the first few weeks, right? First few weeks, you're basking in what you thought it was going to be before you get married. And then, I don't know when this happens. It happens at different times to different people. It's not exactly how you had envisioned it and you imagined
You
it.
have to admit that even though you're right, you're wrong.
Even though you're right, but yeah, but to really,
Stop.
no,
It's like,
but
okay.
to really, no, I don't know.
That was what I was
To
referring
say it is
earlier.
fine, but to really admit it, right? Okay, so back to Yeshua Chaim's question. So how do you bring that into, so now say it again. So now say what your question is regarding now. Can I admit,
I need to think on it.
no, this is good. Can I admit right now that the way that I envisioned the end of this war or this episode, it wasn't the way at all that I thought I'd feel when we went into it. And can I mekabel on the emes and say Hashem has something much more clearer and greater for us? If it has to be the way that I envision what's great and clear, I may as well jump into the ground with Korach. Now you want to throw a chair at my face because that's so hard to hear. And I'm not there yet, by the way. It's easy, much easier to say these things than
Say
to...
how long is it supposed to take?
No, I'm not there yet either. I'm just saying this is, if we're learning Torah Lishma, then this is at least the place we have to go to. Last question on this topic, yeah? Because this is now, obviously this could take us, okay, achal kach. Yeshar koach. The shaila, okay. Im Hashem omer sheze lo ani, az ze lo ani. If Hashem says it's not me, then it's not me. You know, this is just to end this paragraph. I thought about a lot of tzaddikim, like the Chofetz Chaim, and obviously the Ish Kodesh, and like I'm wondering, like in their thoughts, their last thoughts before they died, they must have said, okay, it's not in my generation. That's not what Hashem wants, and that's like such a crazy thing to think about, that they actually had to have come to that place of saying, it's not meant to be in my generation, and that's what it is. Like I won't see it with these physical eyes right now. And to makabel it. Now that was true for them, but no one's told us that it's not for us, right? On a national level, no one's told us this is not happening in your time. Fakert, all the simanim and all the chizuk we are is that it is. But if Hashem came to me on a private level, on a personal level, and said, that function, that job that you thought you were supposed to do in the process of the Geula, it's not really meant for you. I'm happy you were around for it, but really it's meant for him. Could we really say, if that's what Hashem wants, that's what I want? And that's our whole avodas Hashem. Aser Ritzon Charitzon, like the whole gig. The whole gig is basically saying that, right? Okay. Yeah, Avichai.
By the time the Nesiim bring their karbanos, Aaron says, I wanted to be a part of that. And is it really a level of, if Hashem says it's not you, then it's not you? Or is Aaron even a higher level, not a level where he accepts it, he says, I'm going to have to do it anyway. So I'm going to do the Ratzon Hashem even if it's not planned out for me. So I'm going to scream and cry.
Yeah.
Why wasn't I allowed to, bring karbanos with the rest of the Nesiim? Meaning, Korach is the level of saying, I wasn't meant for it. He's
Alavai, he was supposed.
kinds of screaming. Korach is saying, "I wish I could be the Kohen."
Right, but
Gadol."
Aaron HaKohen didn't say, "I wish I could." Aaron HaKohen, Moshe Rabbeinu sensed he had sadness over it, but he wasn't going to take God to court on the decision making.
You know what? You're saying
That's the
difference
distinction.
between them.
Yeah, that's the.
Korach is challenging Hashem.
You could,
versus Aaron.
Aaron's not challenging Hashem. He has a pain in his heart. It seems.
He wants to serve
It
Hashem.
seems, not al pi pshat, although the one word that does allude to it is that Moshe has to say, krav el hamizbeach, which means, it does seem that you're very brokenhearted because you're not getting to do what you really want to do, but you're okay with it. Krav el hamizbeach, but he's not challenging the leadership, and he's not challenging Hashem. That's the distinction between the two. Let's continue. Ech masigi madrega shekazo. So how do you reach such a level? This is a very sharp Torah. Listen to this. Im adam einenu yodea dvar ala emes, en lo shum koshi lehodos be'emes. If you don't know anything about truth, you have no problem admitting that you don't know anything. Rak mi sheyodea et haemet mitkashe lehodot ba. Only someone that actually knows the truth has a harder time admitting when they're off. I'm going to say that again, okay? This is very important. If a person doesn't know anything about the truth, they have no problem admitting what the truth is. Who has the really hard time admitting what the truth of truths is? Dafka, the person that's kivyachol holding. Does that make sense?
How can someone know what the truth is?
That you're connected to the emes, that your life is emes. What was Korach's gig, you know? What did he do? What was his job? Do you know what his job? He must have had strong shoulders. You know why? Vaikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat. What was Bnei Kehat's job? Nosei ha'aron. This guy, he was a rebbe. He was in the parsha. He was in the
We
parsha.
learned last year that we didn't know. Hindsight's 2020, but if we were in a situation, we would know which side to choose.
Nachon?
He was Gadol Ador.
Gadol Ador, 100%. And Dafka, with those people, admitting on the truth is one of the hardest things. It'd be like today, one of the chief rabbis getting up and saying, "I admit, friends, that my heart and soul was in the right place, and the way that I conducted my rabbinic leadership and authority, I really thought that was the truth, but I'm seeing now and I'm listening to my heart that really the things I should be focusing on have very little to do with what I focused on until now." Do you know what happened to him, to that person? No. He would become the Gadol Hador. For all the real seekers, he'd become he'd have my vote. He'd become the Gadol Hador. When was the last time any of you in this room, or do you know of anyone that was inspired by a chief rabbi of Israel? Remind me something. Tell me something that they did. Thank you. They'd become the greatest Gedolim in the world because they're in the truth. You understand? Dafka, because they're in the Olam HaEmes. But to be able to look at the Am and say, maybe the messages I've been sending out in the name of the chief rabbinate are not, it's not exactly what this world needs right now, what this door needs right now. That takes so much koach, takes so much strength to do. The idea,
Mordechai.
Why Mordechai?
Because he could have.
Louder.
Because he could have continued to be a tzaddik, but he went into politics. He stepped outside of who he actually was.
Because he felt that that's what was needed at the time. V'yedias ha'emes b'madrega achi gvoa. Knowing truth on the highest level, hi lehodot sheyesh mishu sheyodea yoter mimeni. Is admitting that there's someone smarter than me. There's someone that knows things better than me. Zeh ha'mivchan ha'machriya shel ha'emet. This is the decisiveness. This is the test, the decisive test of truth. Im ani yodea, we're fourth to bottom paragraph. Im ani yodea et ha'emet be'emet, az im mishu yodea yoter mimeni ani modeh bekach. If I know the truth of truths, then when I come across someone that knows more than me, I have no problem admitting it. Ani yachol liot rofe metzuyan, can be a great doctor. Ani yodea et ha'emet ketzad lerapeh et guf ha'adam. I know the truth, how to heal a body. אין לי בעיה לומר שרופא אחר יותר טוב ממני. I have no problem admitting that there are doctors that are better than me. But אם אני יודע את האמת באופן שקרי, but if I know the truth in a lying type of way, היא לא מאירה אליי, then the truth doesn't illuminate me, doesn't shine on me. אני פשוט לא מסוגל לקבל אותה. I can't accept the fact that there could be someone else that's a better doctor than me. It could. Truth of truths is knowing there's always someone greater at that moment. There is the truth, but in a lying type of way, doesn't illuminate in me anything. It doesn't illuminate anava in me.
It's like the bitui to twist the truth, twisting.
Twisting the truth. Yeah. Could be. נכון? Korach יודע בכל עצמותו שישנו השם אחד. Okay, you think, what were Korach's kavanas when he said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? I guarantee you they were higher and deeper than anything anyone has ever tasted. אבל הוא ידע זאת באופן שקרי. But he knew it in a lying type of a way. What does that mean? I know this is hard to internalize. He knew that God is one, but not in a way that brought light into his life. He knew it in a way that made him the Rebbe, and the importance of him being the Rebbe, and only him, and only him, and only him. I think I shared with you that on the retreat that we were at, which seems like 60 years ago, but a few months ago, that I was with all these very special people. When I came back and I shared with you how excited I was, is because everyone in the room felt that they were in the presence of something greater than them. Every person, every Rav there. That's why there was such a light in the room. And everyone was asking about, like, so what were the topics, what were discussed, and what were of course, the resolutions and the plans, the fixing, right? You're in the room with Rav Moshe Weinberger Shlita, with Rav Simon Jacobson, Y.Y. Jacobson, Rabbi David Aaron, Rav Dov Ber Cohen, he came here for the Motzei Shabbos Malav Malka, Rav big Gadol, the name is escaping me now. What's that? Rav Pinson. And many of a younger Chavre, more my age and younger, and everyone in the room felt that, not that they're the lowest, but that they're in the presence of greater people than them. And it was one of the most, it was just I didn't have words. It was such a humbling experience just because of that. Because when you're around that, there's so much light. There's so much light. Then you can be around people that know maybe even know more Torah. It's hard for me to maybe even know more Torah than that. But it's in a way of, the emes is here, and there's no light in the room. So Korach maybe even knew more Torah than anyone. But Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, he only sees the Echad going on to him. It's Echad here. And Moshe and Aaron's whole thing is, whenever Hashem says what he wants, like Moshe Rabbeinu, remember the tzaddikim say, if you'd ask Moshe Rabbeinu, how did you become Moshe Rabbeinu? He would always say, it's only because God, for whatever the reasons are, wanted me to come up to Har Sinai. If Hashem wanted someone else to go up to Har Sinai, they would have gone up to Har Sinai. Kol Parshat Korach, the bottom over here, Kol Parshat Korach no'ada lelamed otanu, she'en dai ladat ha'emet. The whole story. Think about it. Why do I have to learn that such a thing happened with Korach? It's a busha within the Am. It's a big stink amongst Am Yisrael. It would seem like it's a big chilul Hashem, this parsha. But so what's the purpose of learning such a parsha where such greatness in Am Yisrael becomes so kilu mechulal? So Rav Shlomo says, Kol Parshat Korach no'ada lelamed otanu she'en dai ladai ha'emet. It's not enough to just know the truth. Hashela hi, האם אתה יודע את האמת באמת? Do you know the truth of truths? Do you know the truth for real? זוהי הקדושה של משה רבינו ושל אהרון. הקדושה של התורה היא לא רק לדעת את האמת, אלא לדעת את האמת באמת. Knowing the truth for truth. And what's the simon of someone that knows the truth for truth? What's that? That he can admit when it's exactly what we said in the beginning, what Leibele Eiger says. He can admit when he's wrong, and I would say he can even be happy when Hashem's chosenness takes place, and it may have nothing directly to do with you personally. That could be the greatest thing in the world. Like, you know, I feel this even greater. You know what's a siman that our shul is really, really great? Really great? When we hear about a development in another neighborhood or something, where there's a lot of excitement and people are going there and there's some great things happening, if we're emes, we're like, but it's not Shirat David. If we're emes la'amito, we're not thrilled for them. We're thrilled for us. Like, inside, it makes me happy. I'm not happy for them. Inside, it makes me happy. Inside. Huh?
There's going to be more room.
Because there's going to be more room.
Yeshiva.
So look,
Clarity that you're in the right place.
yeah, 100%.
You think it's like
Can-
the difference between knowing something in your head and in your heart?
For some, that's what they need to know. Could be. It shows up in different shapes and forms for different people. Now look at the bottom and look how he ties this all together. Kach anachnu nichnasim l'Shabbos Kodesh. This is how a Yid goes into Shabbos. Mizmor shel Yom l'Shabbos. What's the first thing I say? Tov l'hodos l'Hashem. It's gewalt. Tov v'na'el lehodot b'fnei Hashem she'eineni yodea shechatati. Tov l'hodos. Because when do we say, according to our tradition, what's Mizmor shel Yom l'Shabbos? Who said this? When?
After the...
It's a true thing. Admitting it's like, wow, it's so good to thank you, Hashem. And how do I thank you the most right now? By being able to admit that I thought I knew the truth, but it's greater than me. And now Tshuva has shown me that. Tov l'hodos l'Hashem. And I want to just add, he doesn't say it here, and then it says, what are the next few words? Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. What does that mean? Yes, zemer in Hebrew doesn't just mean a song. Hilchot zomer and Shabbos, zmira, means to prune. It means to cut away, right? To cut through. I cut through everything, and that's how I get to l'shimcha elyon. Meaning I cut through all of my truths and my cheshbonos and everything, and it just feels, this feels so great. And this is really the way we go into Shabbos every single week, with a tikkun of Korach. But one day, like the Arizal tells us, every Yid will be able to see that inside Korach really had really deep kavanas. Like the Arizal says that Tzadik Katamar Yifrach is Sofei Tevos Korach. It's interesting. It's not Roshei Tevos. It's Sofei Tevos, because we will see one day. We'll be able to see clearly, like all those. There was something really real that was wanted to. In another teaching here, Rav Shlomo explains how Korach tasted what it means to be a Gevalt Levi, and then he couldn't imagine if he became a Levi Gadol, it would taste even greater. But the shaila is, are you okay with the way Hashem, what He put in your life, to make the most out of what you got right now, or is your whole inyan to see how much could I push this more? Obviously, people could relate to this when it comes to substances, because they feel something that I could probably feel this even more. And then I could probably feel this even more until there's no end. No end. And the end is saying goodbye to your wife and children and checking into a rehab place for 6 months. But it all came from a place of, this tastes so good, I got to taste this even greater. However, we're still in the story of Purim. Okay? We're still in Purim. We're still in the Megillah. This story, what we're going through, isn't finished. We should be mizdabek, beg Hashem to be people that are not just Anshe Emes la'amito people, Bezrat Hashem. Shkoyach, everyone.